Well, let's keep it basic and simple. The episode is about marriage. It's not really a structured episode. I think I've actually wanted to do a structured episode, and I was kind of like, you can't really structure something like this because it flows quite naturally, and there's so many variables involved, especially when it comes to marriage. Loads of issues, especially in our culture here and back home. So it's just to talk about all these issues and all the things that we see as people, as British, Asian Muslims that have lived in this country and have lived back home, but I've also seen our friends and family experience as well. So I don't know where you boys want to start. Does anyone have any suggestions?
Just to add on that, I think it'll be good for non-Asian people, because I think there's some connotations around Asian people and arranged marriages. So just to clear some things up around arranged marriages, because there is a difference between a forced marriage and an arranged marriage. So I do want to touch on that as well a little bit. So yeah, who wants to start?
I mean, just to give some context, other two have been so quiet. It's like me and you having a conversation.
I thought you were just introducing the topic, but building upon from what Vakar just said, I think it's important that we also talk about how marriages are arranged and what we do during them, as into there's a lot of pleasing other people during marriages. There's a lot of we need to look a certain way, we need to spend a certain amount of money, etc., where religiously that doesn't tie in with anything. That's all cultural.
So many things we could talk about, right?
Exactly.
Maybe the audience have already noticed Jakob's not here because he's the only single person, so it made sense.
We kicked him out today.
So it made sense that this episode was for the married people. Although, it would be interesting at some point to have the perspective of
a single person.
A single person that's, almost in his 30s and still not married. That's just a joke. It's a joke, by the way.
It's not a joke, really.
That is a joke. But we'll talk about why people are struggling to get married and stuff anyway, because that's interested within itself. I think we should start with that.
Yeah, let's start with what you and your friend is suffering from. You mentioned
me and my friend.
No, not you.
I'm married.
Your friend, and what the situation that he's suffering from. You mentioned during one of our chats prior to this podcast that you have a friend that is.
That was actually for another episode.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That was actually for the racism episode, because in our culture,
keep it out. Yeah.
Okay. There is a lot of racism. Let's not hide the fact.
I think, just touching on the racism bit, I think one of the sort of, I would say top 5 things that Asian parents, especially from back home, they look at is like the skin color.
No, it's true. It's true.
That's so true. I was actually going to bring that up.
Like, instead of saying, mashallah, she's, or this guy is, I don't know, he's very learned and he's got a degree and stuff, or he's very light. They would start off with that, like, mashallah.
Gora chata.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But if you talk religiously, there's a hadith, as Rasul said, if you have few options, like if a girl is rich or a girl is beautiful or she has a good character, the best one would be with the good character, right? Mm-hmm. And I was listening to a lecture yesterday, and the trainer said that whenever there's a conflict between religion and culture always wins. Mm-hmm. And that's true.
That is true. I think it's fair to say that we've obviously to some extent we either know someone who's gone through that, where the culture overtakes religion, or we've been through it ourselves. So I think it definitely is an issue.
Can we talk about the culture? Because the culture is something that's quite controversial. Yeah. Like, I'm married, right? And I married someone of my own choice. So I married someone that's British born. But sometimes...
But it wasn't love marriage, right?
It wasn't. I mean, you would put it in that category.
How do you define
because
What is
basically, the definition of a love marriage in British terminology is anything that's outside of an arranged marriage. Because otherwise, if it's not a love
Really?
marriage, it's an arranged marriage. Yeah.
Yes.
So love
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
love doesn't
In
necessarily mean your
Pakistan
girlfriend
it's
and
different.
boyfriend, right? It doesn't
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
your girlfriend and boyfriend. It's someone that you've married out of your own will, your own choice. It wasn't
Yeah.
arranged.
So in Pakistan, it's a bit different.
Okay.
So love marriage
Implies that you're
Implies-
courting.
that you're with
Okay.
her basically
Okay.
outside of marriage. I
Mhm.
think is that.
Not really. I think we're mixing up terms here.
Okay.
So-
So you
so
tell
by
me
the
what
way-
you think love marriage is.
No, so I'll quote that trainer again. So, whenever you have a strong emotion within yourself, either it's anger or love or fear, yeah? And if you make a decision on that feeling, or let's say if you are in love with someone, you will overlook all the negativities in that person. And that's true. Yeah? But when you're thinking logically and you're deciding, like you said, I'm married of
I
my
get-
own choice.
I get
yeah?
where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. But yeah, you're looking at it like holistically, whereas the definition that I was given of what a love marriage is how we categorize it here. Love marriage is something that isn't arranged as far as I'm concerned, but obviously I get what he's saying as well. So that's probably how they view it back home, right?
No, I think what
Or is it?
what
Or this
AJ
is how
said-
you view it yourself, as a personal view, your own definition.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think what AJ said is universal. Anything outside of arranged is a love
yeah.
marriage. Simple
Yeah, you
as
can
that's what they
categorize
do
it into
back
that's the
home.
general.
Yeah.
I
That's-
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what they do back home, and that's what they do here. But moving forward, we were going to touch about some
Yeah.
cultural
What
things.
I was going to say
Yeah.
was, obviously I married someone which wasn't an arranged marriage. It wasn't a forced marriage or anything like that. It was someone of my own choice. Whereas sometimes I think that certain people in my family would be happy or more affectionate towards me if I married one of my cousins or something. Do you know what I mean? In our culture, and I've seen it happen to some of my cousins and stuff. You get like their parents saying, "Oh, it would have been like my father's wish for both of his grandchildren to marry." Do you know what I mean? And that's quite prevalent in our culture, and I think that's a bit of a problem because Islamically, yeah. A lot of the times this blackmail comes from, like, say for example, there's a parent, yeah, and that was their father's wish, and let's say their father's passed away, yeah, God rest his soul. Islamically, if you think about it, that person has passed away now, so their wishes in this dunya are irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? And it's also against Islam for you to marry someone against their own wishes, and I also think the whole emotional blackmail element of it is wrong.
I think we've been given a framework. I think we've been given a framework to find a spouse in terms of what the things we need to look for. We shouldn't really be I don't want to say listening, because sometimes elders, they give you advice from out of wisdom.
Mhm.
Like maybe you don't know what you're looking for, so they're like, okay, they steer you in the right direction. Like, no, this is.
Do you really think what I just explained is because of what you're saying? Because they have your best interest at heart?
No. I'm saying sometimes.
Yeah, okay,
So
fine.
like sometimes I'll give you an example. So say for example, if you're a young guy growing up in the UK and you're used to going out with your friends on the weekend, basically, you and I know that if that person finds a girl from, I don't know, from a club or something, it's not really wise to pursue that.
Yeah, of course.
So
So
elders might see that and they might say, okay, I need to get my son or whatever on the right track, and I need to sort of influence that decision a little bit, which is fine. I think it's fine. Personally, I think it's fine.
But you know what? That's a whole other issue. There's a difference between emotionally blackmailing someone to marry who you want,
No, 100%.
and guiding you to marry someone.
So that's why I said that we have a framework, because we are Muslims, so we have a framework in Islam. that over sort of overtakes that. So if they say, you know, it was your grandfather's dying wish that you married so and so, but you have Islam to sort of present, look, no, this is not right. You know, this is
Our culture doesn't really care about Islam that much when it comes to things like that.
Well, it has
arguably.
There is
But
I
one
was
more
just
thing,
saying
you know.
this. I was just saying this to Awais on our drive to Friday prayers today, that our culture does not have tolerance towards religion or any sort of, you know, our culture overpowers our religion. Our religion is quite simple. It tells you the right path and the wrong path. It leads you in the right way. And it's quite simple to understand. It's literally quite simple. But when cultural aspects come into it, it becomes quite complex. And then, like AJ just said, there's emotional blackmail, there's psychological elements that come into it. You know, all of these factors come into play. Where he's coming from, emotional blackmail, that's a large part of how things work. However, that can be incorporated into the fact that sometimes parents think that they're making a decision in the child's best interest for whatever reason. It could be because they found someone in a club and they think they're not compatible, or they think they won't find anyone because they've been, you know, they're a certain age. And there's lots of pressures within our society and our culture to say that when you hit a certain age, you should be married. When you hit a certain age, you should have children. When you're a certain age, you should have a property, etc., etc. There's lots of expectations set by our culture, not our religion.
But you know, when they say that by a certain age you should be married and stuff, there is some wisdom in that. There is a lot of wisdom in that. So a lot of the recent research, it basically shows that women who are in their 40s, who don't have kids, are depressed. It is a very high percentage. So these are predominantly women who have pursued their career and they've gone far. Their lifestyle they can't have, basically, their lifestyle is they work at a very a high position in a company, like a partner or a CEO or something, and they don't have time for kids. But they fall into depression and it leads to things like suicide and stuff. And these facts are available online. So there is a correlation between having a family, getting married, having a family, having kids, and age. So there is some wisdom in that, but I don't think it should be...
How rare is it for women even in our culture, to not be married at the age of 40?
Very rare.
Very rare.
You know,
it's quite rare, yeah.
You know,
If she isn't married at 40, she's not going to get married.
In most
That's a very
situations,
sad thing to say.
That's a very sad thing to say, but in most situations, that's the truth. If she's not married at 40, she's probably not going to get married.
And that interestingly goes on to like a whole nother topic of why are people not getting married at a certain age, but we could talk about that later. I think we should just carry on pressing with the emotional blackmail thing, because I know people, right? I have cousins that have been told, okay, we're going to Pakistan. As soon as they got on the plane, they realised that they were actually going to Pakistan to get married.
Sounds like...
And it happens. It happens.
There's
There's a lot of people that are going through this, and it's a fact. There's a lot of people that are put in a situation where they're told they're going to get married and they're going to get married. And yeah, it's just like, personally, I could never see that happening to me, or me allowing that situation to happen. But I think some people have so much respect for their parents that they have this kind of fear, like, you know, I have to keep my parents happy, like that kind of fear, if you know what I mean.
I'm so happy AJ mentioned that word respect. I think in a lot of situations when the children actually end up going to Pakistan or marry within the UK, but according to the parents, which is because they have that element of respect. In most situations, in Asian households, you know, doesn't have to be most situations, but let's say 60% in my own terms, I think children growing up over the age of 18, they still live with their parents in Asian, you know, households. That's how things work. And, you know, usually in as far as I understand, Asian parents don't ask their children for, rent money. They don't ask them for electricity money. The food is cooked, the clothes are cleaned. God forbid someone's in a position that's not the situation. The parents are divorced, or they've left each other, or one's passed away, or both of them, God forbid. But in most situations, like I mentioned, that's usually the situation, and for that reason, the children feel indebted. They feel like our parents have done this for us for however long. We can't see them unhappy.
That's probably why I feel like I wouldn't do that, because obviously the viewers wouldn't know this, but my parents separated from a very young age, so I didn't kind of have that conventional family structure. Maybe if I did, it'd be different. Maybe I'd have gotten married 10 years ago back home to someone I'd never seen before, but
the problem is,
I don't know.
That should not be like a debt. So that love for your parents really comes from the heart. And we were speaking in the beginning. We were speaking about love, like a love marriage. Yeah. So love is so sort of taboo in Asian culture. Our love for our parents, obviously, the love for the love for parents towards their children towards their parents is different from the love that you have towards your wife. But in our culture, it's like, you can love your parents and stuff. In fact, fear us, love us.
You can't even love your parents. In all honesty, when's the
you
last
can't
time?
even love your parents.
Let's ask around the table. When's the last time you told your parents you love them?
Never,
right?
Never.
Exactly.
Maybe through text or something,
Yeah.
but not like face to face.
Exactly, not face to face. And if I know for a fact, I'll talk about me personally. Like, mom and dad, I love you, but if I said this to their face,
and
they would be like, "Are you okay, son? Are you okay? Is something going on? Are you about to pass out? Like, what the hell? It is taboo."
But saying that, I know, and I can, I'm pretty sure you guys are in the same boat, that no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing in life, the way we're brought up and the respect we have for our parents, no matter what you're doing, you would drop everything for your parents.
100%.
If something
100%.
So that's what you call, that's like genuine love. That's not fear. So I think it should be the other way around as well. So where you feel indebted to your parents that they looked after you, that's their job. That's their job. They have to raise you. They have to. That's their job, literally. I
don't think
that's
it's their
true.
job.
It is their job. Of course, it's their job.
Yeah.
When you have when you have a child, inshallah, when you have a kid, you're gonna realize that you don't ever want them to. You don't ever want them to feel like that. You don't ever want them to feel like you're doing this as a favor or something. It's out of pure love. And when you have a kid, you'll realize you'll actually start respecting your parents a lot more. You'll realize what your mom had to go through to raise you. So when you have a child, that sort of love for your children reflects back onto the love of your parents, because you kind of realize that my parents went through the same thing, and it's like a deep sense of respect. So that comes. There's no favors or anything. You raise your kids. Your kids are for you to look after, for you to nourish, and for them to sort of bloom and provide them with the opportunity. That's your job as a parent. You're not doing them any favors. That's. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We are moving away from the topic.
Yeah, we are.
So,
but you know what? It's relevant. I get why it's relevant, because we're talking about being indebted to your parents. And I get it. I get it. I actually have a question for Averse, because Averse is from back home, right? What do you think about the whole emotionally blackmailed aspects of getting married to someone? I mean, did you see it in Pakistan? I mean, what's the view over there?
Yes, it does happen, but as far as my life is concerned, or I have seen through my friends or families and stuff, I haven't seen anyone to any parent who blackmail their children to that extent that I'm gonna kick you out, or I'm gonna disown
Not
you.
that
No,
kind
no,
of
no,
blackmail.
not that.
The kind of blackmail that I'm talking about is this is what your grandfather would have wanted, for
Yeah.
example.
So
that kind of blackmail.
I was coming back to this. They say that this was your dying grandfather wish
Yeah.
or grandmother wish,
Yeah.
and if you think deeply, when they were alive, they had a lot of other wishes that your parents or you didn't fulfill. You get me? So when you talk about that, when they were alive, if they were alive, you had fulfilled any one of their wishes, they would be more happy than now. Yeah. And then when it comes to marriage, it's like living with a person for a life, not just like a couple of days or weeks or months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Living with someone for a life is a big deal and a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to think about it, because if you talk about back home, they raise you well. I'm not going to lie. Like culturally, we are raised well. We know how to respect elders, we know how to understand their feelings. Like, he's a father. He would never want her daughter to go into a trouble, right? You're going to, until she's an adult, you're going to make decision that's in her favor. Yeah. So there's an element on this regard as well. But with the marriage is concerned, if you look back, if I look back, because you haven't lived there for a lot of time, if I look back, they give you everything, right? They teach you, they put you through colleges and universities, they invest in you, yeah? But it was for up till 16 years. But when it comes to marriage, that's a deal for a whole life, We don't get any education. Like, how would you choose a person if you like someone?
Yeah.
Or how
That's a
would
very
you
good
deal throughout the life when certain issues are raised?
Yeah, that's a very,
So-
very good point.
Yeah, so we need education in this regard as well. We are
Yeah.
being taught with everything else, culturally and religiously, and
Because I
this
think,
is left out,
Yeah, because I think if you were to say to your parents, I want to look for someone myself. Sorry, I want to look for someone myself. They might be like, well, from certain families, they might be like, what are you talking about? Look for someone yourself. Have you gone mad, basically? But from what Avas just said, if you raise your kids and if you set an example for your kids, a good enough example for your kids, they're not going to be looking for the wrong person. They're not going to be going out they're going to be looking for traits which are in you. And psychologically speaking, when you look for someone, you look for certain traits that are in your parents. And to some people that might sound a bit weird, like why are you looking for traits in your parents in your spouse? But it's a fact. It's a fact.
Avers, I have another question for you actually. On the back of what you said, I get what you said. It made sense. I understand it perfectly well. But if you were to put it in the context of your parents, I'm not talking about your parents, I'm talking about in general, right? Your parents getting you married to your cousin rather than someone outside of the family. Do you know what I mean? If I get the whole thing, like they choose the person for you, but what I'm specifically saying is, why is it that they choose your cousin or someone that's close to you, if you know what I mean?
Because the one they choose for you is raised in front of them. They know them well. Like, you have same family traits. You
Okay.
know? So if you go outside family, it takes a bit of time to settle down together,
No, that's true. That's true.
And if you're looking within the family, you don't have to worry about this at all.
Yeah, I grew up in Pakistan as well, so I just want to add to that the thought behind marrying cousins is the fact that you know the family, you know the girl, you know you'll get along, and there's an element of respect as well, in the sense that in our culture, our religion, divorce is frowned upon. It's a big issue. So if that situation arises, God forbid, the family could then intervene and help prevent it or try to, iron things out rather
Can
than...
I just say
Go
something
ahead.
there?
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's frowned upon in Islam, that divorce is frowned upon. Another thing that's frowned upon
He said in the culture, not in Islam.
No, he said
No,
Islam.
it's in Islam.
In
It's
In
true.
Islam, okay.
Yeah.
In Islam, okay.
So
Sorry.
another thing that's frowned upon in Islam is
Oh
marrying
God,
your
I'm trying to
cousin.
stop you for a second. Yeah, you're playing with a microphone
sorry.
again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We should
Just
marry
leave
you to your microphone.
Yeah.
I'm out of time to touching it and playing with it.
Sorry. I'm gonna keep my hands here.
Yeah.
So another thing that's frowned upon is actually marrying your cousin. And I was watching a lecture. It's allowed in Islam. It's permitted in Islam. It's not like it's not something that you should. It's not something that you should do a lot. I was watching this lecture on YouTube. So marrying your cousins is for us, for Pakistani people, it's more inherited from Indians than religion, because
That's
you
what-
don't see
okay.
it. You don't
It's-
see it in
it's-
Arab
it's
countries.
within the culture.
But can I just add to that? Look, when you go back home, or if you look at your extended family, they're usually quite large in Asian communities, larger than you would find in other ethnics. Exactly. So they're like clans. You have parents that are around the same age, and then they're married off and they have children around the same age. So what they're trying to achieve is, or what they try to do is basically, within family gatherings, within weddings, you could probably see all the uncles, all the aunties, they're there.
Yeah.
They don't really mingle with people outside, except if it's for work, etc., etc.
Right. Yeah.
And moving forward, when you have a social life,
So we're talking about third, fourth cousins.
yeah. But also, you have to keep in mind, when you talk about social life in Pakistan, now I'll tell you, even to some extent in England as well, have you noticed, me, you, Akib, him, we hang out a lot. Why? Because our families have been together for, donkey's years. Do we socialize, do we have a social group outside? Yes. Are they always in our house? Do we bring them home?
No.
Not too much. If
Yeah.
we need to chill, we go somewhere to eat. We go to do an activity. So if you think about it, we don't really mingle with people that are, too outside, our wide extended family. And that's a reason behind why there's so many arranged marriages within the extended family.
It's true, I think that ties into what I was saying to you earlier. Like me and Akib, or Akib, I'm going to call him Akib because that's what I naturally call him. We've been friends for at least 10 years, and I was telling God, I've never seen his sisters or his mum.
There you go. So
Never.
and that's the point I'm trying to make. So, obviously we know AJ now. We've he's been nice enough to invite us to his house, etc. But on a normal day-to-day basis, does this usually happen? No, it doesn't usually happen. If you need to meet someone, you want to link someone, you want to have fun, you go out, you go to eat, you have a dessert, you have a coffee, you go paintballing, say for example.
Yeah.
That's,
Or you don't turn up.
Yeah. You got to rub it in now. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that happens. So that's the cultural element of things. And I really want to touch upon another side of things is the way that we do weddings in our culture. Glamorized weddings.
Yeah.
So does anyone want to put their 2 pence in?
Yeah. So my wedding set me back by a lot.
I know.
Basically, we do weddings for others rather than ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
And from what I've heard in Pakistan, they take loans and they take all kinds of stuff. I've even heard that they would take the loan from the person's family that they're marrying off their daughter to. So they take the loan off their family to get their daughter married into that family. But the concept of having a modest wedding,
It's
like
about Hakmer. You're talking about.
Yeah.
oh, the Hakmer.
Isn't that what you're talking about?
No.
I've not ever heard of anything
So what I'm
along
talking
the lines
about
of what
is
you're talking about. That's why.
So what I'm talking about is expectations. So say for example, if family A is getting married to family B, well, the girl from family A is getting married to the guy from family
Okay.
B.
Yeah.
There's an expectation that the wedding has to be of a certain standard. So then the family A doesn't have the money, but instead of having a modest wedding, family A will get money or borrow money and I've heard about this from family B, who they're actually getting.
Never heard that before.
I've
Either of you heard that
this.
before?
No.
It's interesting, but
Yeah.
I'm only saying this
personally
because
not come across it before.
I know a family that's done this.
Okay.
It might be,
That is very interesting.
an exception.
Yeah,
But,
probably.
I
But I'm
understand
just
where
saying
Bagar's coming from. He's putting forward a concept to say that people take loans to have glamorized weddings to
Yeah.
impress other people. That's what you're trying to say.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. Going back on what you just said, family A and family B, are they relatives or are they completely unrelated? Just to give some
They are
context. Relatives. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
you can
That
borrow
makes
money of
sense.
the relatives. That's standard. That makes sense.
No. But what? Okay, so the reason why I find that wrong is because the family that you're gonna send your daughter to.
Which is your own family anyway.
Okay, which is
Yeah.
your own family,
Yeah.
but you don't want to put her in a position where family B, if they have a dispute amongst each other, the two people that are getting married,
It happens.
you don't want to put her in a position where they say, "But we lent you the money for the wedding," or like give her that basically. So personally, I would off my own back, I would, if it was my daughter, I'd have a modest wedding, have it all provided for by myself, and not look to anyone else. Because just in case, if there was a situation where she didn't get along, they start saying stuff like, "Oh, but remember when we, you borrowed money off us?" Because it happens a lot in Pakistan.
It does. And I think in our culture, we don't know what a modest wedding is because we get married to impress other people. When I got married, it wasn't an extravagant wedding, but it was a decent wedding, right? I've gone to weddings where they've had like concerts and stuff, like mad weddings, man. Like where you think, like, why have you done all this stuff? Like, it's just stupid. When you see like those weddings with all their sports cars and things like that.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't agree with that. I think that's a waste of money. Why would you do that? Because when you get married, right, marriage is like fulfilling half of your deen.
Yeah.
It's an
Yes.
Islamic.
Yes.
It's something Islamic, and all these materialistic things that you're doing, like it's not going to help you in any way Islamically, right? I think one thing that I can mention when I got married, which was a bit of a problem, was getting married in this country. I got married in this country, right? Is very expensive. When you go to a venue, you're paying per head, and it can be anything from £20 to £50 per head, right? You got married here as well. I got married off my own back, right? Just finished university and I had to save up for my own wedding. So it was quite tight. So when I got about booking my walima venue, right? I wanted, I don't know, let's say between 100 and 200 people, which isn't a lot of people when it comes to an Asian wedding, right? But then my grandmother, who is from back home, very cultural, wanted to invite relatives that I've never heard of in my life.
Yeah.
And she's got friends, right? Close friends that she wanted to invite as well. And she's probably closer to these friends than she is her relatives. But those relatives actually took priority over her friends just because she... there's different reasons. I'd say that it is to be extravagant. It is, I don't know, it's weird. It is, but at the same time it isn't. But I think mostly it's like a pride thing. Like I went to their wedding kind of thing, so I have to invite them to this kind of thing, if that makes sense. I know we were talking about extravagance. It kind of ties into that, but quite loosely. But it is... I mean, extravagance falls under the pride category, right?
Yeah,
so
100%, right.
So when it comes to weddings, especially our weddings, there's a lot of pride.
Yeah.
My grandma made me try and wear the bug as well, yeah.
Same.
I didn't want to wear it.
Same. I
didn't want to wear it, and
Yeah.
she got so vexed. You could see it in the video as well. Like she's standing next to me, and she's giving me little kisses and stuff. I take it off, yeah. Her face has gone all red. She's thinking, I'm gonna beat this guy. She made me carry it, yeah. I didn't have it on my head, yeah. When I got to my Bharat venue, she made me carry it. Yeah. She was like, just carry it. I'm thinking, why am I carrying this for if I'm not going to wear it? I put it behind the stage or whatever, and she kept like handing it over to me. And she keeps telling me, and I don't know, maybe you brothers can clarify, but I understand that covering your head is like an Islamic thing, right? But she keeps telling me that and I think this is cultural, that you should wear the bug because it's a mark of respect.
Manly thing.
Well, she says a mark of respect is a sign of respect. She says izzat a lot.
To be honest, that's
there are different
that's,
views, you know.
That is the superstition attached to it, and I've also heard the saying that this is totally out of context. It's not Islamic at all. There's no back behind it. But there's a saying that says if you don't wear a dopi or a pug, the shaitan hits chappal on your head. Something along those lines. But there's so many connotations attached to it, right? But it's pretty stupid. It's pretty.
We do a lot of stupid,
superstitious,
unnecessary, superstitious stuff when it comes to getting married, man.
Yeah.
So many irrelevant things.
Yeah.
And we spend so much money doing it as well. Like there's that game that women play, when the groom enters the venue and like they take his shoe and ask for money. Like this, obviously that comes from Indian culture, right? It comes from Indian culture, but it's things that we do and it's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And
just going on that point, I want to tell you a little story. Like, I went to my sister's wedding in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And there was like one of these things that they do. So apparently there's like, they bring out a glass of Coke or something.
Milk.
It's usually milk.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
it was
it's
milk.
usually milk, yeah.
So one of the guys, a random guy, so we tend to segregate our weddings. So
A random guy, yeah.
So a random guy walks into the women's section with this glass, and he's like, "Give me money for the glass of milk or whatever." And I was like, "Okay." I was just taken aback because I'm the brother. So everyone's looking at me. So I'm like, "Okay, how do I get rid of this guy?" So I take out 1,000 rupees, and he's like, "No, brother, more." So I'm like, "Okay, 2,000," and he's like, "No more."
Did he produce this milk himself?
So then I'm like, how much do you want? Just tell me. And I was getting a bit agitated at this point. I was like, we can do this afterwards. Just get out of here because this is like the lady section. It's like family only kind of thing. And he wouldn't get out. Then Aqib's younger brother, who's a boxer.
Yeah.
He just like, he was wearing some rings and he just like turned them around. I know what was coming. He was gonna punch him basically.
Yeah.
Because he just wasn't listening. But turns out those waiters, or those guys, they don't get paid. So this is their payment, but they do it in this some
traditional way.
They do get paid,
Cultural
but they
way,
don't get tips and stuff and this, that, and the other. And they get paid very modest. So obviously, I understand where he's coming from. But then again, there's ways of doing things, especially if it's a segregated wedding, you should take the hint that, mate, you're not welcome, kind of thing.
Do you know what? What is the English word for khusre?
Sorry?
Khusre. What is the English word for khusre?
Transgender.
Yeah.
Transgender,
No. Okay.
I've seen village weddings where they've had khusre, right? And they're either dancing or singing and like there's people throwing their money. What is the logic behind that?
Nothing.
Okay.
Stag party.
I'm going to touch upon two things now. So the first thing, coming back to what AJ said about khusre, is the fact that their existence in our culture and our country is made taboo, right? Being around them, having them in your household is taboo, right? For whatever reason, I don't know, they're human beings just like anyone else and they shouldn't be treated in that way.
Even their parents disown them.
Their parents disown them. Moving forward, they're forced to then live in groups of people that are of their nature, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing they can resort to for a livelihood is going to weddings or occasions and, trying to, just, I don't know what because they're not obviously seducing anyone and this or whatever, but they're just trying to make a livelihood. And that's the only thing that they've been forced to do.
So they turn up, by the way?
They turn up. They
turn up by themselves?
No.
They turn up.
They don't get...
Not khusre.
Yeah, they do.
They
turn up.
Yeah,
They turn up.
Gadwiliyan, bro.
It's
They
the
turn
same
up, right?
thing.
No,
Everyone turns up.
Yeah.
Everyone turns up, right? And they're all there to make a livelihood because obviously they've been outcasted and they don't have anything else to do. So that's the story behind khusre.
Yeah.
And then going back to extravagance and weddings and this, that, and the other with money, etc., etc. There's a lot of what will people say in our weddings with regards to the type of food, the type of venue, the type of cars. What I'd really dislike is people that roll up in Rolls Royces, at their weddings.
Listen, that was, for me, that was like...
I came in a Rolls Royce.
Yo, I didn't say anything. No, I'm joking. I'm obviously joking. But what I'm
I
saying
think that was I do think that Rolls Royce was a waste of money.
I
No.
actually
Listen.
wasn't going to go with a Rolls Royce, yeah. But I think, do you know what? My now wife actually helped me so much in the process of getting married. Like, there's so many things that I cut back on, man. Like, obviously I don't want to go into too much detail, but she helped me a lot. So I just wanted to do something that was slightly extravagant just to make her big day a little
special.
better, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean. I don't
Yeah.
care about Rolls Royces.
For me,
Yeah.
I would have pulled up in a Micra.
Yeah.
I don't care.
yeah. For me, it was because I'm guessing it was the day that you get. So was it Barat?
The
Yeah.
Barat,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's when you go and get the bride. And
Yeah.
So for me, that's a mark of respect.
Yeah.
No, of course. I was obviously joking, just going
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
you guys.
yeah.
God
But
bless you guys.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
With
I'm talking
with the,
about
with the cars
extravagance,
and
with the fleet.
fast and furious. kind
All
of.
I'm talking about is extravagance. That's the
Yeah,
point
yeah.
I was trying to make. That we do things, or in our culture, it's infused in us to do things to impress others,
Yeah.
and sometimes we fall on our face because of that. Like Vagar said, we have to take out loans, and then other times you spend lots of money and it's for nothing because people talk about the wedding and
People
the food.
will always talk.
They will always talk. But the thing is, we're highly driven by that line. What will people think, or what will people say?
Yeah.
You know.
Especially in this day and age of social media, people are gonna have these things just for the gram,
Yeah.
just for the pictures, basically. And we live in a society now is a lot different from how it was before. That I think the other thing about the change in social media and everything, and how everything is like we are influenced by social media. So I want to sort of transition into another topic, is the influences of what you want in your potential wife or husband. These influences, right now we're being influenced from social media and all these different
The
avenues.
TV programs we watch,
Yeah, exactly.
the movies,
So-
all these things, they play a big part.
Of who we want to marry.
Yeah. I mean, it's
And it's-
different. It's different for boys and girls, right? Aqib's not here, but I'm going to give you an example of what he used to say when he was younger. He was younger, yeah, so bear this in mind. He used to have...
Cut.
Yeah. So we used to talk about our ideal wives and who we would want to marry. And he used to give this perfect description, like absolutely perfect, like pious, beautiful, like everything. And it was just so unrealistic. If you asked him what he'd be looking for now, he'd probably give you like a
girl.
different
Yeah,
opinion
yeah.
because he's mature now. But there's some guys that are around our ages or older that still have that immature frame of mind that want perfection but aren't perfect themselves. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I think if you're looking to get married, especially if you're like mid-20s or older and you aren't married, I'm not saying that every guy wants something perfect or whatever. Like, everyone's got their own issues. You should stop looking for perfection that doesn't exist. And that's also the same advice to women as well, because I know a lot of women that are in their 30s
I think more
that
so
are not
women.
married.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons. There's two reasons, yeah. One reason is because their expectations are very unrealistic, and especially girls here, right? They're so exposed to the kind of TV programs we watch and the British culture that I'm not judging anyone, by the way. They go out with guys and things like that. Same with guys as well. Like, we've got brothers that are going out with women, and these are the people that they want to marry or end up marrying, and it doesn't work, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the advice that I always give, especially to some of my friends that might be going out with girls or whatever, I'm not going to expose anyone here, is that marriage is a big commitment. We know we're all married, right? When you marry someone, it's not just about attraction. It's not just about, I don't know, like, attraction is the main thing, right? When you got a girlfriend, you know, if someone's got a girlfriend, the reason they're with them usually, it's not because they're a nice person, it's because you were attracted to them 99% of the time, right? I could be wrong. Maybe someone is with someone because of their
For the
personality,
visa.
but there's loads of different reasons. But if I was to give advice to someone, male or female, if someone has enough respect for you, if someone really loves you for the person you are and respects who you are and respects your heart and everything else, they wouldn't go out with you in the first place. My opinion. I could be wrong.
You know what? A lot of the guys nowadays, they look for, like you said, you know, they're going out, they're seeing different girls. They will never be content.
Yeah,
you know, they will never be content.
They can't be content because they've been around so many women. So when it comes down to the thought of actually sticking with one, do you know what I mean?
It scares them.
It scares them.
I went to a wedding recently, and obviously I'm not going to name the guy, but this guy's quite old. And I said to he asked me, he kept asking me like prying questions about being married, what's it like, blah 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 blah. And I said to him, listen, don't listen to so and so who's saying, oh, you know, never get married or whatever. You know, don't be scared. What are you scared of? What are you, commitment? Is that what you're scared of?
Yeah.
You know, responsibility for your wife or a child is what grows you as a man. So when you're a young person and you're going around looking for different girls, looking for attention is something that as men we shouldn't be seeking attention like that. It's not in our nature. You know, we shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't be going around like obviously I'm not saying women look for attention, but if a woman was seeking some kind of attention or affection, then it's understandable. But men shouldn't be going around seeking attention.
You know what I was saying before, I lost my train of thought a bit, right? But the point that I was getting to in the difference of having a girlfriend and boyfriend as opposed to actually having a marriage, the biggest difference is, and you know what, I lost my train of thought again. But what I was going to say is when you're boyfriend and girlfriend, you probably occasionally see someone, right? Once a week, maybe twice a week, or a few times a week. When you're married to someone, you have to live with them, you have to be around them 24/7, you have to put up with their flaws, their bad habits, you have to see them in the morning without their makeup on, their
you have to listen to them snore.
You have to listen to them snore, you have to, you know, go to the toilet after them and see the mess that they made just before. Do you know what I mean? No, but it's little things like that.
Reality, that's the truth.
Adding on to that, you have to sort of synergize with someone as well. So you obviously no one is perfect. You have weaknesses. They have weaknesses. They have strengths that you might not have. So you grow together as well. So it essentially being married and having the responsibility to provide for somebody, and not just provide financially but provide emotionally as well. It turns you into it kind of changes the gear in your life a bit. It kind of you're kind of a bit more. How do I say it? Competent.
Bro, that's where, sorry, I'll let you carry on a minute. This will be very brief, That's where, at the beginning when you mentioned social media, that's where this comes into, because social media is so easily accessible. A lot of people meet their partner or potential partner on social media where they have nicely edited pictures, they look sleek, they look amazing. But what they don't understand is when you marry that person, they're not going to be that same person on Instagram.
24 hours, yeah.
So I was just going to touch back on the point Vagard made earlier, that one of his friends got married and he's quite afraid, and he asked him, what are you afraid of?
No, he wasn't. He's not married.
Oh, but
he's afraid to get married.
Okay, so just getting back to that. The thing is, say for example, in a situation where you're getting arranged marriage, or for that matter, not even arranged marriage, love marriage. In our culture, in our religion, there's high expectations, due to which I think a lot of people are afraid to get married, because number one, you know that if it doesn't end well, if you get divorced, God forbid, but it's going to end badly for both parties. There's never a pretty divorce, right? It's going to end badly for the children if if you're given any, and then also you want to make sure. So when you're married, your parents chill out a little bit. They're like, oh yeah, shadi hogi, let him go home. They got their own family now. We can relax. We're all good. But for that individual, for that lady, that man, the test starts then. You have to spend 24 hours of your day with the one person. You have to see the human side to them that you don't see on social media, like Aja mentioned. And you have to see the flaws in them, which every person has. There's no one perfect. And like AJ said, men are looking for perfection in women, and women are looking for perfection in men. But it doesn't exist.
It's stupid.
It's stupid. It doesn't exist. And I feel like in a lot of situations, people aren't willing to compromise.
Also,
yeah. Sorry. You.
Also, when you get married, moving forward, when you get married to someone, don't set your expectations too high. And also, if you have any conflicts or arguments or anything, don't look onto other couples. Like sometimes your wife mentions or the husband mentions that these guys are the best. These guys are the best. They do this, they do that.
Or they show you the screen. Like, look at this
yeah,
Instagram
look
couple.
at that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, your life and their life is different. They are living in a separate environment. They have separate lives. They have separate personalities together. So never ever compare yourself with others, and never ever ask for help or advice to other people who are not in your situation.
Yeah. No, 100%
I vouch
agree.
for that. It's not just in this situation, but in every situation.
In every
life.
situation, yeah.
It also goes back to fitness as well.
It's good to ask for advice,
Yeah.
but you should have a sense, to judge whether it is relevant to my perspective.
You should
or
know
my-
your partner.
Yeah.
You should know what.
I can't believe you were just about to talk about fitness.
Okay, listen,
Where's
can I
this
just
conversation
make a
going?
point? Like, I was just reverting back to fitness. I was saying, like, even when you're at the gym, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. You should, do what's good for you, and you should be
This
a
is
better
this is how
version.
people
And,
know
and
you're
never
a meathead.
never get the injections. Never get the injections.
Yeah, no. Don't get injection, kids.
I mean, to summarize all that up as well, like, don't try and seek perfection when you're not perfect yourself. Like, you need to check yourself before actually thinking, I want this. Like, are you perfect yourself?
And adding to that point, after you get married and you have a kid,
You're the only one in this room, by the way,
yeah.
so everyone knows.
So I just wanna save people a lot of time. If you're looking for certain things that that you're hyper influenced by social media or whatever you see on Instagram or whatever, those things are not gonna always be the things that you look for after you are married. After you are married, naturally, biologically, when for example, when your wife has a child, she's not looking for you to have the freshest cut and the whatever she was looking for.
100%.
She is naturally, what she's looking for? She's looking for a competent man who can provide for the child and who can provide for her. That's what she's looking for is someone who can sustain and someone who can provide a good life for this new being, basically.
Yeah.
So to saving people a lot of time, young men, stop going around and going on leaving a trail of
Bad experiences.
bad experiences. I was looking for the right leaving a trail of bad experiences, because one day what will happen is you're going to get married. All you'll have is your lines or your whatever your bars or whatever. Yeah. You're going to be incompetent. You're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to provide. And you're gonna your wife is not going to like you, basically. Stop being a waste man. Stop being a road man.
I'm going to give a little more wisdom as well. Yeah, the one advice I've given so many advices. Yeah. One thing that I will say is, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a wife, make sure that it's someone that reflects your mother. Or when you look for a husband, make sure it's someone that reflects your father, unless you don't have either. If you don't have either, then your ideal mother or your father, or like, if you know what I mean.
Just make sure it's not Cardi B.
Yeah. Yeah, just make sure your role models aren't people that you see on social media or on TV.
100%.
Can I just add to that? End of the day, when it comes to marriage, when you look at a husband or a wife, this is also touching back on why we do arranged marriages within families, is because to some extent, the families or the elders within the household are actually looking for the generation ahead. They want to be able to provide a childhood or a family that is able to give them education Islamically. They want them to have parents that have, level heads on them. And obviously, moving forward, they want to be able to have children or grandchildren that will pray for them once they're not here. Obviously, life doesn't always work out that way, but that's the greater thought. And to be honest, I feel like, our religion is a huge part of us, even when it comes down to culture, it's a huge part of us, and it affects the way we think moving forward.
Islam is probably the reason why I decided to get married. Do you know, before I got married, I was having nightmares about needing to get married. It's weird, man. And even like before like these nightmares started occurring, I felt like deep inside, I felt lonely. I felt like there was instability in my life. And I remember like my wife, right, just to give some context, she was someone that I knew, right? She was like a friend. It wasn't like a girlfriend or any of that. She was just someone that I knew, a friend. And she must have dropped me a message. We had known each other for a few years, so we'd message as friends here and there, right? And then she randomly spoke about marriage. She didn't say, I want to marry you or anything. It wasn't anything like that. She mentioned marriage. And at that time, obviously, I was having the nightmares. I had this feeling that I wanted to get married. I literally just said to her, how about we get married? And that's literally how I got married.
SubhanAllah. That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's good.
But that feeling, like I knew that I had to, and it ended up being the right decision. But Islam gave me the guidelines of getting married. I'm not saying that, I'm not like saying that my wife is pious or she's perfect or anything like that. Like we already discussed, perfection doesn't exist, but the basic principles for me were important. Like she has to be a good heart. She has to have a good heart even. This woman's going to be the mother of my children. This woman is also going to represent my family, and she's also going to be around my family. And I'm also going to be around hers, because her family comes as a package as well. And that's sometimes what we generally fail to not grasp, the fact that both your families also come as a package.
That's what I started earlier, that we need education on this topic. No one tells us how to deal with your in-laws or with your wife or your next generation. Let's say if you're going out to buy a car, you're going to look around properly. You're not going to just throw money away, right? If that's just a car. But you're talking about your life partner you're going to spend life with, and you have no idea how to choose a wife and how to deal with this throughout your life. We people, we normally go to the physical attraction, but what happens is when you get something, you lose attraction.
Even if it's pretty, the prettiest thing you'll lose.
Exactly, you lose attraction. The only thing that stays till end is the character. And
100%.
We never looked into it.
To be honest, I think what Awais is saying, I don't think he means education, because people are complex. Even psychologists spend their whole lives, trying to understand people, and they can't. Humans are so unpredictable. But what Awais is trying to say, I think, is don't rush into decisions. Don't put the materialistic things or the physical attributes first. Like look deeper than that. Marriage is deeper than that. And I think, that's what he's trying to say, basically, that,
Also get yourself prepared for the next, relation. You're not just going to dive into it and see, we'll go with the flow. That doesn't happen.
Don't look at today, look at tomorrow.
But go adding on to that one, to that point, I wanted to speak about forced marriages.
Okay, so we're moving on now.
No, but it's a good transition. I'll tell you why. So there's arranged marriages and there's forced marriages, and arranged marriages exist not only in Asian culture, but they are basically they exist in white culture as well. Increasingly, yes, increasingly, yeah.
In white British culture,
yes.
Arranged marriages.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh, I know somebody. Do you want to meet him?
No,
okay,
it's
cool.
fine. It's fine.
No. We're not saying we don't believe you.
No.
It's not.
I'm giving you an example.
Yeah.
So Imagine this. Imagine
We'll have
me.
Dave commenting on a video. This guy's off his nuts. You don't know what he's talking about.
No.
I ain't marrying my bloody cousin.
I'm giving you an example, yeah. So imagine I know somebody. I'm not saying I know somebody.
Yeah, okay.
That can verify what I'm saying. I'm saying imagine I know somebody,
Okay.
and I'm like, my friend wants to get married or something,
Okay.
and I'm like, oh yeah, I know somebody. This happens in British culture. It's called like a blind date or something.
But
it's an arranged marriage. If they end up getting married,
Yeah.
it's an arranged marriage.
But
isn't it?
I don't
really.
think so. I don't think
Not
so
really.
because they never go with the intention of getting married. They go in with the intention,
I
I'm
can
going to
tell
meet
you.
someone.
I can tell you this.
They go on dates and
No,
stuff
they
go
like
on
that.
dates.
We're talking about arranged marriages where you don't see your wife until the day of your nikah.
That's not arranged. No.
bro.
This is what I want. This is what I want to clear. So it's clear that you guys don't know what an arranged marriage is, because that is not an arranged marriage.
Shots
This-
fired.
Okay.
That's a forced marriage.
That's a
we're talking
forced
about.
marriage, and I want the
And-
viewers, because
yeah.
no doubt my friends who are non-Muslim are going to be viewing this, and this is they have they like non-Muslim.
I agree, by the way. You're
Yeah.
right. That is forced
So
marriage.
so what I'm saying, what Avas was saying was, they have to have education about what comes next. But what tends to happen in Asian culture is when a guy is ready to get married and his parents say, okay, yeah, we'll get you married off. They go look for a wife and they say, okay, can you cook clean? And that's it. And for him, there's no education, because it's like, she's going to do the exact same thing that my mom has been doing has been doing for me for the past, for my whole life, basically. And that's raising a man child. If you have no skill set in, looking after yourself and feeding yourself and, these things, and you're just looking to just replace your mum with another woman, just like all you're asking for is cooking and cleaning, the education is not needed, because that is,
But if you're just
it's
asking for cooking and
entitlement.
cleaning, you're basically looking for a maid, not a wife.
Exactly, and it happens.
And
It happens.
Okay,
Does it not
I
happen?
agree. I agree that
It
we do
happens.
have that element within
A
this.
lot.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Maybe not a lot.
It happens a lot.
Maybe not a
It
lot.
happens
but-
a lot. Listen,
Maybe it has changed. You came here about how many years
Yeah,
ago?
I think it's changed possibly.
It's been
'Cause the
changing.
thing
You
is,
know why?
the reason-
I'm going to tell you.
Listen,
If
before
you-
you tell me, Avers, Wakad, keep the microphones to your mouth. Otherwise, you could tell me all day long, but the audience aren't going to hear it.
okay. Yeah. Sorry.
So, the students in universities, if you talk about, let's say, 10 years back, they were a bit modern in a sense that they follow any culture blindly, yeah? But now, religion is coming back to them and the sense is getting back into their minds. So what happens now is if you talk about let's say a posh family, a rich family with religious values, and if their daughter or son comes to them that I want to marry this specific person, they allow in a sense that they don't just throw it away. They obviously have to look into the person as well. You can't just, what if your daughter comes in saying that I want to marry this drug addict? You can't let that happen,
Yeah.
You have to look into the only way, Islam says the only way you can decline a rishta is just because if the character is not right.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We have all the rules, but the whole thing again is culture is heavier
You like.
than religion.
You must have heard about people saying no because you are a certain caste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens, doesn't it?
Or
Yeah.
you are poor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard caste, I've heard poor, I've heard you don't earn a certain amount, and I've also heard you're not in a certain industry.
Not educated enough, not light enough.
Not light enough.
Not
That's
light.
another one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
I've heard that before as well. You're black, bro. You can't get married to my daughter.
true.
That's just
That's a
amazing.
whole
No, no.
nother topic,
Yeah.
isn't it?
we're gonna talk about that on a separate podcast.
It goes for the girl as well. Like if she's
She's dark
if
in
she's
complexion.
dark, they'll say it.
They'll say it. They'll say it to the face, and I don't know why this is frowned upon. Within our culture, but it is.
When you keep saying those things, like if you're dark or if you're poor or anything that is negative, then this develops a you call it a stress or insecurity within that person. So he will never be in that right mind to do or decide anything when it comes to bigger decisions, right? So basically you are putting someone into a difficult situation for their life, not just for that particular moment.
I agree. I think what would be a good topic to move on from move on to now even.
Wait, I didn't finish on the forced thing.
Oh, you didn't finish?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, because
you went quiet.
This is extremely important. This is very, very important because there are people out there who are being sent to Pakistan and to it's not just Pakistan, but who are being forced. Like you said, emotionally blackmailed is kind of forced. But
do you know when you say that, yeah? And I'm sure you've seen many examples of this. Some people that have been forced married or forced marriage, whatever you want to call it, have been married for years.
Sorry?
Happily married.
Yeah.
No, have been
married.
Happily or not, I don't know. But have been married for years.
Yeah.
Like I've got loads of examples in my own family of relatives that were forced married and they're still married.
But you know,
I don't know if they're happy or not.
I know this happens. You know, if you look back to the previous generations, this happens, and you know why? Because
of the family ties.
Not the family ties. For example, if you're put into that difficult situation that you have to get married to someone because of your parents or grandparents, or they're forcing you, you are a bit resistant at that time because you don't know the girl. But when you live together, you know each other, you can develop that kind of love, you know. So it can work out.
But Waqar would agree. I mean, his definition of forced marriage is that.
It is that.
We
are not talking about the results. We're talking about forced marriages.
There is a potential for, I don't know, a person to marry a chair. And there is a potential. Wait. There is a potential for that person to get on with the chair.
Okay.
Does it make it right?
Can I just say? Like,
but wait.
We should have used the microphone as a better example.
Yeah. Because you're quite affectionate towards the microphone.
No, but what my point is and a bit it's a more important one is if you're not in your heart of hearts, if you're not happy in a marriage and you're just being forced into it, then the guy is not valid, and that is what that essentially means is you're
in a haram relationship.
You're in a haram relationship, basically.
No, you know, I want to rephrase that maybe a little bit. Thing is, look, when you are put in that situation, you know, in most situations, you can't really be forced to, you know, just get shipped off. Obviously,
of course you can.
To some degree, you have to agree.
Girls, that happens to girls all the time.
No, I know, but to some degree, you have to be, you know, willing to do that. Like, you know, there's ways around it to not go. But what I'm trying to say is, you agree to a certain extent to say, oh, okay.
Yeah, because a lot of the times you're scared.
Yeah, you're scared.
That's why you're scared.
Out of fear.
I suppose that's one way of putting it. Yeah, you're right. You know,
The reason I know this is I've personally dealt with people that have gone through this and who have been got married, come back, divorced, kicked out the house, not basically ties cut off with the family. I know I've seen this.
Different context, but if I were to put a gun to your head, you're more likely to do as I say.
Correct.
As opposed to me not having a gun to your head just because you're scared.
Absolutely. Agreed. Can't you know, deny that.
And that goes back to the emotional blackmail thing, because that's a weapon.
Yeah. However, arranged marriages, obviously, this is for like the non-Muslim viewers as well. Obviously, they see Asians are like, oh, arranged marriage.
They think arrange or force is the same thing.
Yeah. No,
arranged. There's a misconception about
it's definitely not. Like, I would like to think that sort of arranged marriages are basically your
parents line up a few options for you and you have a choice.
Yeah, that's what happens.
If you like this girl, marry her. If not, go find someone else.
Or do you have someone? If not, here's a few options.
That's exactly it. That's arranged marriage.
That's an arranged marriage
where they put a
and
selection
they work out.
You.
They work out.
Yeah.
They can work out. Yeah,
agreed. That's arranged marriage. And forced marriage is where you get told 10 days before your wedding and then you're shipped off and you see your wife after your nikah. That's forced, isn't it?
That's forced. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. It's like you get your nikah done. Yeah, you're now married, and then it's like, so
you haven't seen her.
So what's your name?
Bro, none of that. No, don't do that.
What's your name? How old are you? By the way, what do you like? I like cats. What about you?
I hate
dogs?
cats.
I have cats. Yeah.
By the way, I don't like your hair. Can you shave it? Can you shave it off?
Yeah.
Also, your beard.
Yeah.
Don't like your beard. Can you get
like
rid of it?
You're too skinny. I like, you know, chunkier guys.
Yeah,
You know, whatever.
it would have been interesting to like have someone explain what that's like, because I don't know how some people do it, but you know.
But you know, with regards to forced marriages, there's a bit of, let's say, education needed on parent sides. For example, if you are letting your children do whatever they want throughout their life, they are basically wild animals. And when it comes to marriage, you suddenly want to tame them.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
In one action, and it can't work.
That happens a lot. I've seen that happen a lot. Like the girl is like, if you look at her, you're not gonna think that her parents would put that kind of pressure on her, because like, for example, she's not wearing a scarf, or she looks quite westernized,
Yeah.
But then when it comes to marriage, it's like, no, we've already decided who you're going to marry. I've seen this.
तू शकील नाल ही ब्याह करते.
It's like, it's
Do you know another thing that's interesting? Obviously, when we were talking about expectations and stuff, we mentioned attraction. I think some elements of attraction are important. You know, in the scenario where you're forced married to someone, they take off their scarf.
And you were like, what the hell?
What the hell are you? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, alhamdulillah, I've not been in that situation. But there's some people out there that are made to marry someone that they're not attracted to at all. So, like, this person could be the nicest person in the world, but if you're not physically attracted to them, how do you make that marriage work?
Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, parents should look out for their kids first. Parents should look at their kids and see what they want. Obviously, if the kids want, I don't know, a baller guy with a gold tooth and 2 trap houses selling drugs and whatever, obviously as a parent, you have to guide them to the right path, and you have to kind of impose your will a little bit on them. Yeah, but you can't just say, oh, my father said that he wanted such and such daughter. Or have you heard of this? Like, when kids are born, so
they already
married.
Yeah. That's prevalent in my family as well.
That is.
I've just come up with the craziest topic ever. You guys are gonna love this. In Islam, is it forbidden for a single guy to marry a divorced woman with children?
No. It's not forbidden, but in our culture, it's frowned upon.
It's
That's
frowned
what we're
upon
onto.
mega. So if say,
it's
for
not
example,
it's not only it's not forbidden. It's like
Sunnah.
It's a respectable. It's Sunnah.
Okay.
If you look at all the wives of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except one, all of them were widows.
Okay,
or
listen to this. If any one of you or your friends, I'm talking real time now, went up to your parents and said, I like a lady, she's 45, she's got 2 children, can I marry her? Would they say yes? Be absolutely honest.
No, obviously not.
AJ?
Forget my parents. How am I going to get through my wife first?
Hypothetically speaking, would they be happy?
Probably not. They'll ask me if I'm right in bed.
I feel like that's a major thing that needs to change within our culture. You know, God forbid the woman's husband has passed away, right? Or they got divorced because he used to abuse her.
Exactly.
You know?
But in
how
culture,
is it that lady's fault? How does that imply anything about her character?
But
exactly.
And also, most importantly, in our religion, like I always said, you know, and the first wife of our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she was divorced. She was 20 years older than him, and she had 2 children, apparently.
15 years older.
15 years older. Yeah. So it's not wrong, but our culture.
No, I agree. Look, it's quite relevant to me as well, because my mum is a divorcee and she's got 5 kids, and there's 5 of us as well. And obviously, I wouldn't want anyone to think, oh, is there something wrong with his mum? Do you know what I mean? And who knows, God forbid, it could be one of our sisters, it could be one of our cousin sisters, whoever it happens. But that's one of the negative sides of a culture, that they frown upon.
And you know what?
Things like this.
You know what? In a divorce situation, nothing happens to the guy.
Exactly.
There is no bad light on the guy.
There's no backlash.
The guy can be divorced as many times as possible, but no one will care.
Yeah, it's
It's
sad.
crazy. It's sad and it's wrong. I think that needs to change big time.
It needs to change, but will it change?
I'd highly doubt it. Highly doubt it.
Because Avess, obviously, you're from Pakistan, right? Do you think that can change? Is that something that's discussed over there, or?
And also,
No.
tell us in relation to people that you know. Say, for example, your friends or your society around you.
I haven't known anyone who has done this. Like, who has
Can I just say
married
something?
Anyone,
Can I just say
elder
something?
or a divorcee,
You know
or a
what?
widow.
If you've got a daughter, if you've got a sister, if you've got a mother, yeah, and you have any kind of we call it gharti, any kind of honor, any kind of respect for them, you'll break this habit of looking down on women who are divorced and stuff. You know, it at the end of the day, it could happen to your daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
It could happen to
100%.
your sister.
100%.
But this is what we're saying. It's wrong and it needs to change.
It definitely needs to change.
Will it change? I don't think so.
Well, how about
Maybe in next generation?
I don't even think.
Because look,
if I say,
We-
how about
we are
if we say Bagarto?
no,
Oh, Bagarto.
we are the teachers.
Listen, we can't say this to the younger generation. We're saying this to the is it the older generation?
It's
that
the
we-
older generation that
But
are
it's-
like this.
Yeah, but all I can say is like, please guys, come on, you need to sort this out. In our religion, it's
You've
not
got
frowned
daughters,
upon.
you've got sisters.
Sisters.
Think
it can,
about
it can happen to anyone, and you know it's a big thing. It's a big
Again,
thing.
it's a cultural.
It's a
taboo.
cultural taboo.
Yeah.
It's not religious. Like look at the
Yeah.
life of our Prophet ﷺ, and you know just take it from there.
Avess, because you were around all of these cultural taboos and stuff, how did you manage to kind of have a different way of thinking? Because you were born around this, right? You've been around it. I'm sure some of your friends think like
You
this
know,
as well. So
if you were there in our Desi podcast
Hmm.
last week, you would have known better because I was the first child from my mother's side and the father's side.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let's say I was the first grandson from
Hmm.
both sides. I was given a lot of love.
Mhm.
But again, I'm going to say that this love was in limit and they put me in the right direction, you know.
okay,
And what I love is, I personally love to sit down with elders and listen to their experiences.
okay,
Right?
That's why he sits with me all the time.
Yeah. And that's why you got nothing.
Are you older than him?
Yeah.
I think 6 months old.
How old are you?
6 months.
How old are you?
29.
How old are you?
29.
Jeez, you're nearly 30, man.
Tell me about it.
Oldest one here.
Bloody hell. Are you?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
You
I know I
guys-
look 40,
I'm
but I'm
27
27.
Yeah, you guys need to respect me.
91.
Put some
92.
respect on my name.
92, I'm younger than you, man.
But with respect
How am I
to...
27? Oh, because months. Yeah.
How am I 27? Man just said, how am I
born
27?
27 years ago.
This guy is the smartest guy here. He's an engineer, he's a software engineer.
No one said I'm the smartest, but I'm just the luckiest, man.
No,
Yeah.
Avess, my question wasn't about obviously the relationship and
I
thing
know.
you have with
I'm coming to that.
Okay, fine.
So, you know, if you were given a proper time, care, and the open area to explore yourself,
yeah.
and if you have a right mindset, and if you have a good people around you, you can develop this habit to, you know, pick up different things. Look, I certainly believe that you should learn something good every day.
Yeah,
you
of
can
course.
change any negativity within yourself every day. You can
Yeah.
change that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe in that. That's why I keep getting, you can say, I keep improving myself every day.
Hmm.
Maybe I learn from you, maybe from a kid. I can learn from everyone. You know, I don't have ego that you are younger than me.
That's solid.
I'm not gonna learn from you now.
So your
Yeah.
thinking is from the way you were raised, and unfortunately, not everyone was raised in the same way. Is
But I'm gonna be honest that recently I've seen a lot of change in younger generation. You know why? Because
in Pakistan, yeah.
in Pakistan,
Okay.
they are coming back towards the positivity. They are standing against some customs that are not related to religion or that have, bad effects on the society. They start getting up against them.
Would you
know?
say it's because they're more educated, or would you say because Pakistan's becoming more modern? They call it modern,
No,
right?
I wouldn't call it modern. You know, in that time, I'm gonna say something. There was a lady who asked a Muslim girl in America that, "Don't you think that this is a bit too old, wearing scarves and hijabs and stuff?" And she replied that, you know, this world was most modern 1400 years ago when Hazur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was around. Because if you look at the start of humanity or humans, they were all naked, and then when they get something in their mind that they start thinking, they start exploring things, they getting better,
Yeah.
they start wearing leaves and stuff, and then a time comes when Hazur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came in this world, and at that time world was most modern because they understand what is right and what is wrong. Yeah,
Morality, yeah.
morality.
Modesty.
So going back there, I've seen very good people with a lot of troublemaker families. Like, you know, I can tell they are Hafiz Quran, or they are really good people within drug dealers,
Yeah.
or having or the families having bad reputation. And same goes, you know, vice versa. I've seen there are people who are getting into wrong direction in the good families as well.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I have seen a good change, a positive change that's coming up with the new generation, and I think this will work out towards, because change doesn't happen within a generation. You know, you have to pass it on to the next generation to get it better. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we have change for good, we're gonna pass these to our kids, and then just go on.
You know, one thing, because you're very uplifting, you know, and obviously, like, we should be uplifting towards, you know, the next generation and our generation as well. But one thing I hate about kids nowadays, yeah, is bloody the way they immerse themselves in making others, having to meet others' requirements via social media. And I'm not looking at anyone in particular, then, but you know, like when you,
Why do you have to say that?
you know, like, say for example,
Shots fired.
I'm just joking, by the way, but
He's
say
gonna
for
bring
example-
up your driving skills again.
Yeah.
You don't want him to go down
I feel
that
like
road.
No. So what I'm saying is, like, people have a social profile online, have an online profile persona where they show they show some kind of image that is not the truth, and it kind of psychologically, it kind of messes. They become a bit. I guess what I want to say is they're less competent now. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not good at doing things because they've got some kind of image, and they're like, "Here you go, this is me. I'm great, blah blah blah." But when it comes to the real world, they're not actually very. That's why we're having so many people, so many girls and boys who are struggling to get married, because they're not competent enough. They don't want to take on that kind of responsibility. Like, you know, in the older generations, it would be like, okay, you're of age, you're gonna get married, you're gonna have kids, you're gonna provide, you're gonna contribute to the economy, you're gonna work, basically. But now it's like, I don't need to do that. I've got acceptance from people because of this online persona that I have, and I don't need to get married. In fact, kids nowadays are dreading getting married. You know, like guys who are outgoing, they don't want to get married. They probably think it's like a prison cell or something. And
It's the same thing with women as well.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that don't want to get married, that don't want to have kids, and that's their life choice.
Yeah.
But you
And
know, if you fast forward their life to 20, 30 years,
too late.
then yeah, and
Too
then
late.
they
We're
come to
saying earlier,
depression.
the 40-year-old woman, like, it's very rare for someone to be 40 years old and not married.
Yeah.
But if you are 40 and you're not married, it's probably not going to be easy for you to get married.
Yeah, and we're not saying, and what I'm not saying is, don't pursue other your career or ambitions outside of marriage or raising a family. You know, we have to be ambitious. We have to, men and women, we have to pursue our ambitions. We have to fulfill our goals. We have to be happy and content with the opportunities that we have, and we have to give it 100%. But it's a fact, and you can look this up. People that are over 40 and they're not married and they don't have kids, they suffer from depression.
So
And
what
it's a huge percentage. So what I'm saying is, you know, they go hand in hand, basically.
And you know, also, we are talking a lot about older generation, and the one thing that I love about older generation is, if you look back, maybe your dad, your uncles, or anyone around you, they got married very early, like let's say 2021,
maybe even younger in some
maybe
cases.
even younger, yeah. And look at yourself. We are their byproducts, yeah. And they have raised us well. We are sitting here because of them. We have some thinkings, we have some respect, we have some customs, traditions because of them, yeah. If they can manage everything in those hard times, and we are sitting here, we have everything in front of us, and we're not doing anything, then there is a serious issue between our generation.
Yeah, yeah. Like younger generations will argue that the older generations, they don't have the education that we have, or they don't have the skill sets that we have. But you have to remember that they were so competent back then. I keep saying this word competent. It just it's something in my head. So they were so competent that they came to this country. They managed to make a living. They managed to have a family. They managed to learn the language.
Exactly.
And and nowadays, just have a comparison. Nowadays they like these phones and these although I'm all for technology, but in the wrong context, in the wrong hands, in the wrong I think social media definitely 100%. I don't know.
Technology is making us think less, and that's why we're not
and
as
mindless
smart. So we're calling smartphone, smart TV.
Everything is
And
smart
then
except
people are getting dumber.
Yeah.
and worse is you can, so all of these things are automating things that we would have had to do manually, but worse is automating your sense of morality. So if you're getting your morality from social media, from some influencer on social media to say that this is what they're saying and this is the 100%, this is the words of the astaghfirullah, like it's the words of God basically. You're getting your morality from and some kind of automated, some algorithms or whatever. This is not. This will be the downfall.
Let's
go back to marriage.
Sorry,
I'm actually gonna keep it relevant to marriage, but also keep it relevant to what you were just talking about. What do you think about these websites and these apps that where you meet a potential spouse, like Shadi.com, Minda?
I think
all these kinds of things.
Supply and demand.
Yeah.
Now, guys are not able to get. When I say get girls, I don't mean girls.
Not just guys. It's girls
Girls
that
as
aren't
well.
able to.
Yeah. And I think it's like.
Have you seen the subscription models?
Yeah.
They're really funny. Women get to sign up for free. Men have to pay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because men are
there's more men that are desperate than women.
I know that there's some good ones. Like obviously there's ones where you just see each other's picture and you say swipe right or whatever.
That's Minda.
Huh?
That's basically the Muslim version of Tinder, where it's like
Isn't that left and right?
Grindr.
No.
That's the homosexual version.
Sorry, my bad.
No, I don't agree with this. I do know that there is actually a Christian one that is quite good.
eHarmony.
I don't know about eHarmony.
eHarmony is not a Christian one.
Essentially,
What are you coming up with, Simtan?
Essentially, you don't see each other's pictures.
Yeah.
You speak to each other. You speak to each other about what you want, and then after a certain time, you get to reveal your pictures.
There's a Muslim app like that as well. I forgot what it was called. A friend of mine was on it. It's funny, yeah. A friend of mine was on it, and he matched up. He couldn't see a picture, right? And then basically they speak for a certain amount of time, and then the girl gives permission to see the photo after a certain period of time when she feels more comfortable. Imagine, yeah, she revealed her picture, and it was his friend's little sister.
Oh my god!
No, but can you imagine?
Okay, yeah.
No, but usually it's parents who put their daughters. See, this is how bad it's gone.
So the thing is, look, there's other ways around it as well. I've seen people, they sign up to like mosque marriage memberships or something, where families go with their daughters or sons, and they get a chance to like speak to each other, get to know the family, and then if it kicks off, it kicks off, kind of thing. There's initiatives out there. You just need to be in the right mind frame. And I also just add to, in the environment of marriage these days, there's a high expectation of you need to have a house, you need to have a job, you need to have this, you need to have that. If you go back to the roots, go back to religion, everyone brings their own naseeb, if you take this step forward and you have the right intention, everything falls into place by itself.
Expectations are higher nowadays, and I think sometimes we tend to forget, like when our parents or grandparents came to this country, they used to share like a bedroom with like other couples. You know what I mean? There used to be, like,
I
a
know.
load of them in,
I
like,
know
one
that
house.
for a fact. Yeah.
And it happens. And nowadays, there's higher expectations because that's just the way things are nowadays.
We need space. We need a lot of space.
Even when, say you want to marry a girl, like the parents have crazy demands. That exists as well. Like he needs to have a mortgage, or he needs to give us £1 million, or do you know what I mean?
Jewelry, cars,
And that's the
property,
problem, because
all
they're not thinking Islamically, and they're not thinking, okay, look, we're marrying off, our daughter to this person. Essentially, when they're asking for all these demands, they're taking things away from their daughter's future, because at the end of the day, the husband and daughter's money, their daughter's money are the same thing.
Very, very good point.
And can I just say, our culture makes marriage hard, whereas our religion makes marriage
so
easy.
simple. It's so
right?
simple in
It's
Islam.
so simple. You do nikah, you give haq meher, you do walima, game
That's it.
over,
You're
right? We get jahiz, we get property, we get this. We need to call all the extended family. We need to spend, thousands on halls and food and cars and jewelry and this and that. All for what? You're just making marriage difficult. Keep it simple, keep it easy. It will help everyone out. Spend that money on a good cause.
Of course.
Yeah.
And when I was talking about when you get married, like the family and stuff, they come as a package. It's true. And alhamdulillah, like, to give you my own example, and brothers, this is advice to you as well. My wife and her family didn't ask for anything.
That's good,
when it comes to the haq meher, they asked for nothing, but we wanted to give something, and they said, okay, give us £500.
It's her right. It's her right.
They said, give us £500, and that's a good family, and that shows you that actually, you know what, you made the right decision. When you get a load of demands, it depends what the demands are. Some demands have good intention. Some demands have good intention, and some demands obviously have bad intention. But yeah,
like my haq meher was Hajj.
That's
crazy.
mashallah.
Because I was going to do that anyway, so for me it's like
winner chicken
I was
dinner.
like, yes.
That's
Whereas
good, mashallah.
there's some people that make ridiculous demands, and I wouldn't say that's cultural, but it's not Islamic as well.
Yeah. So we've had a long discussion.
How long has it been?
Almost 2 hours now.
No,
Really?
one and a half.
1.5.
It's been 1.5. Well,
right.
that's under the usual time. Let's quickly talk about one more thing,
Go on then.
and I promise I'll let you go.
Yeah.
It'll take about 15-20 minutes. We spoke about obviously the process of getting married and stuff. I think it's important, I know we briefly touched on it, but to highlight what kind of responsibility marriage is, and the kind of things you go through as a husband or wife.
I think that's really important to touch upon.
I'm going to start because I started this conversation. When I got married to my wife is, I wouldn't say from a modern family, but they're less traditional than mine. And my family are very traditional. So when we got married, we were living with my family in my family home, and she struggled a bit to become accustomed to like the cultures, and just because it's completely different to where she or what she's used to. And I know that a lot of women and a lot of men, well, not really a lot of men, I'd say primarily women go through this. Men don't, because the women are marrying into their family, so they're going over to them. But yeah, women definitely go through that.
Yeah. Same. So like, my wife, she speaks Urdu. Well, her family speak Urdu, and we're like Punjabi speaking family, and the cultures are quite different. But she was quite good at adjusting.
Yeah.
She understood, like, even though she doesn't understand my grandma speaks very, very quick, and she says like these like what do you call, like, quotes, like old school quotes.
Can you give us one?
Ma jame na jame putar chate na palame.
Or what's the one that she says a lot, man? Atola do ragnone.
What the hell, bro?
Goodness. And all of these girls, he has to come up with this.
What does that even mean? I don't even know what it means to this day.
Don't worry.
Just leave it. Just leave it.
Is it child friendly?
No, it's not.
No.
Let's
Is it not?
let's stick to the one that
Oh my
I
God.
said. Yeah.
Oh, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't even know what he said. I just find it funny the fact that it's not child friendly.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
I don't know what it means. But anyways, she was very good at sort of adjusting, being friendly with everyone. I can't.
I'm sorry, bro. That was just way
Do you
out
know
of
what
context.
it is? Yeah. Do you know what it is? Obviously,
You don't ask for examples.
No, I gave you one. You should have left it at that, bro.
Okay, cool.
sorry.
Never ask him for examples again.
Ever again.
I apologize
I
to
don't
the
even know what it
audience.
means.
If,
I don't even know what it means.
Right,
Then
we'll
you
leave
should
it at
have
that.
said it.
We'll leave it at
why
that.
didn't you say something you knew
You
the
knew.
meaning of? I don't know what this means, but she said this.
Yeah.
Listen, honestly, I don't know what any of them mean. They're so they sound so deep, man.
All right, Awais,
Why
give
didn't you
one.
ask your grandma?
No, Awais, you give one. Something that's popular in Pakistan. You don't know. Jule Lal. What are the stuff behind at the behind?
Who said
at
Jule Lal at home, bro?
I know one. I know. One is Tarnamal the Mirte Chol.
What does that mean?
That means relaxed environment and sweet rice.
How,
Yeah, that's what it means.
how is that advice?
No. But in
isn't it?
in Punjabi, it kind of like. Actually, I got one. I got another one. This one.
Wait, it's not
Relaxed
rude, is it?
environment and
Okay, it's Kar mazduri te khatu churi.
Yeah,
That's
right.
good.
That's
That's
good.
good.
It means work hard. Essentially, what it means is work hard
and eat good.
Eat good.
And
Basically.
so the one that I'm saying is like
Sounds like personal training
Tarnamal.
advice.
Tarnamal, the Mirte Chol is like relaxed environment and sweet rice, right? And that basically means as in like don't stress about things.
Yeah.
It has
Just-
connotations.
Yeah.
Connotations.
You know,
I'm so used to saying connotations now. I don't say
Yeah.
connotations.
But it just means, just chill out, don't stress, and you'll have a good life, a chill life with sweet rice.
Right. Okay. Cool.
You're talking about your wife anyway.
Yeah. So there was a bit of adjustment. Obviously, my family they tend to be quite like passionate, loud, passionate. The way
Similar
they
to
talk.
mine. Yeah.
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 Whereas her family are more sort of
Quiet, reserved.
quiet, reserved kind
Simple
of thing.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Same.
Yeah. But no, they are.
No, I understand. I was laughing at the loud thing. In my mind, I was comparing us to some African American families that are quite boastful and loud.
Loud?
Yeah. That's what I was referring, and it made me laugh.
No, but
carry on, sorry.
Punjabis are naturally loud.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. They're very passionate.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Well, Carl, can I ask you a question? I know we're talking about how your wife settled in, obviously, to a new environment, new family and stuff, and you could carry on talking about that, but could you also add the difference it was for you to be a husband as opposed to a single man as well? Because that's quite interesting.
Responsibility. That's all it is. I accepted. People tend to not accept the fact that they are married. Eventually, they're gonna grow older and they're gonna die. People are scared of the thought of getting older and dying and not having responsibility. When you have responsibility, like I said before, your life kind of goes up a gear. So I feel like I've been a lot more. I've been able to achieve a lot more after I've been married. My goals have been more clearer. I've had things to sort of motivate me to
do better.
What about the
yeah.
beginning? Did you feel like that at the beginning? How did you feel at the beginning?
At the beginning, it was quite.
You feel like that naturally over time.
Yeah.
But I think at the beginning, especially when it's an adjustment for both of you, it's quite hard. I found it quite hard personally. There was times where we'd have disagreements, right?
Oh yeah.
And I would
yeah.
just be like, what have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh no, like how am I going to deal with this? Because you have to like deal with like concerns that she's brought up, and you've never dealt with these concerns before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, you're putting me in a difficult situation, especially when it came to obviously her moving in to live with my family. There are certain confrontations, and I'm just like, well, how do I handle this?
But just coming back to that point, how do you get over those things? What do you do in those situations? When a situation where there's conflict between your family and the missus, how do you
Your
resolve
family
it?
and the missus.
Yeah.
the missus is your family. So
Yeah,
it should.
yeah.
But
So
I
she's the
understand.
daughter to your parents.
Y-
Your parents are her parents, and it's just the environment that you create, basically.
I understand, but I was just providing context to the viewers. If there's an argument with your wife, between your wife and your family, they're both family. I understand, but what do you do? How do you diffuse the situation?
I've never had that.
It's hard to please everyone, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to please
But
everyone.
there is a way to settle down, you know. You don't have to upfront in front of your parents or, you know, yell at your wife in front of your parents
Yeah,
out
that's-
of respect. Both have their own places of respect
I
and
think-
love.
Yeah.
And you are answerable to your wife, yeah?
Zananiya kamre jol ke koto.
I think what was important to me was to protect my wife. So if she had a confrontation within the family, or if something happened and she had any concerns, I always told her to come to me and speak to me and let me deal with it, because I didn't want her to look bad in front of my
That's
family, and
right,
I didn't
yeah.
want her to say anything. So I had to
Yeah.
sacrifice myself. And like, it even came like there was even times where my family thought I was the bad guy. And to be honest, I was fine with that, because at the end of the day, they're still going to be my family. And although they are my wife's family as well,
Yeah.
I would rather protect her and sacrifice myself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So that's very important.
It's a good thing to have balance.
I think over time, what actually happens is the wife kind of grows the love,
Hmm.
because the better you are with your wife, the more she would love your parents. So
100%.
you have to be 100% with your wife. If you're one of those guys that are, you know, just treating her like an outsider, why is she going to love your parents? They're not entitled to her love.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It should all be natural. So you have to treat her right, and then she will, out of the love for you, she will say, I don't know, she will grow to, you know.
These people raised the person that I love, the person that does so much for me. Like, how can I not be nice to them, basically?
Exactly. How can I not respect them?
How can I not respect them? Exactly.
Let's come back to relation between husband and wife.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what if there's a conflict between them? How should you go forward?
So
Yeah.
I gave the way that I dealt with it.
Yeah.
I mean, how
I
would
get
you
super
brothers deal with
angry.
it?
So if it's a disagreement between me and my wife, and it's more from my side, I tend to get super angry really quickly, and it's like really I know this about myself. Even when it's with my friends and stuff, I get super angry. Basically.
Okay, we're talking about confrontation between husband and wife.
Wife.
Yeah,
fine,
husband and
cool.
wife. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, she knows she knows me by now, and she knows to just be quiet. So when
Yeah.
she's quiet, she lets me vent, and I huff and puff, and you know, all these different things. But then afterwards, she approaches me and she says, "Look, what you said is, do you think it was like rational? Do you think it was logical?" And then we have a conversation. And same with the other way as well. You know, there might be times where she's super emotional about something. You have to kind of understand that, you know, she has feelings too.
Do you know what it is as well? Me personally, I can't speak for you brothers, and I think generally men, when they argue with logic, whereas women, they argue with emotion.
Mate, you
Generally.
open a can of worms here.
No, generally,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying
No,
all
I
women
agree, but-
speak with emotion, but that's why
Don't- they hate it when you say that.
No, they do.
Well, it's
And
true,
my,
though.
My wife's probably in the back listening
I'm
now,
joking,
thinking,
I'm joking,
"Mate,
guys."
wait till this guy's podcast is
punch
done.
bag,
We're
yeah?
not going to deal with him." But no, it's true. There's been loads of arguments where obviously she's being a bit emotional, and it almost sounds like, because I'm not being emotional myself, it almost sounds like I'm being patronising or taking the mick.
Yeah,
if you know what I
exactly
mean.
you're saying. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm not saying that I'm right.
Yeah.
But this
I-
is how
I-
women are.
yeah,
you
I
know,
can-
emotions flow into them. Like
Yeah.
they're made of emotions.
Mm.
They show it, you know, clearly. But
Yeah,
us
yeah,
men, we have some kind of ego. We don't really.
No,
show
no,
it.
I don't think it's ego.
I can
No,
agree.
I don't
with
It is
what-
something that you know you feel a bit like, maybe it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
That in our culture, men don't really
We're
show
not allowed to
their
show
love or
emotions.
respect.
We're not allowed to show emotions. I'll tell you that.
I don't
for a
think
fact.
it's that. I don't think it's that
I
because
think
the Pakistani
naturally we're
culture
just
doesn't
like this.
apply to me, someone who's been
Yeah, yeah,
predominantly
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
British. So
But-
I don't think it's that in my opinion.
I think men are just more. They're not. It's like a natural thing.
Can I just say, like, in our culture, so I grew up in Pakistan. 15 years I spent his whole life there. But I know for a fact, men I wouldn't say aren't allowed to. Obviously they are, but it's frowned upon if you show emotion. You can't be overjoyous. You can't be over saddened. You can't be, too rebellious. These kind of things, this, that, and the other. I've been in situations where, like, you just have to walk away. You're not allowed to show emotions, and I'll leave it at that.
You know what? I can't understand your point, because I was just like, what is this? What is this emotion? What is this illogical emotion rambling? What is this? It doesn't make any sense. And I just walk off.
Yeah.
And
I think is, what are you talking about?
Exactly. So you have that type of,
but you have to understand the nature.
And you also have to be very patient. I think patience is something that you definitely
and
need.
there might actually be some kind of
adaptability.
Actually, I say there definitely is some kind of not wisdom, but I guess this is why we're made like this. We're like yin and yang kind of thing.
But I feel like in our culture that there's a thing. Awais will probably agree to this. There's a saying, or this theory that Marad family and Tamana, like he's like, he provides support to them. So if in that situation, in our culture or our society, when a male is predominantly the provider and the man of the house, as they would say, if he's unstable or is always on an emotional roller coaster, how will he provide stability to that family?
Can I say another thing adding to that as well, right? Logic as men keeps us sane.
Yes.
If we were emotional, I think there are emotional men that don't act with logic, they act with emotion. They end up hitting their wives and stuff like that.
Correct.
In my opinion. And that's why as men, logic keeps us sane.
Exactly. And I think there's a trend, a topic about toxic masculinity and how males are very they don't have enough emotion and stuff, and I think that should be a topic for another podcast.
Definitely.
So coming back to the relation between husband and wife,
what's your take on how should you diffuse the situation if you argue with your wife?
I would say I'm still learning. Personally, I would say I'm still learning. The best thing you can do is when the emotions are overflowing, especially anger. I'm not gonna lie, I do get angry quickly. But the thing is, I know, obviously sometimes you can't just control it. It just happens. But most of the time, I try to control it and, move away from the situation and then come back when both are calmed down. Yeah. And there's a thing like, you probably hate some of her habits, but there are a lot of things you love as well, When something happens, you should think about those habits which are dear to you. And also, there's another thing which I feel there's a difference between here in Pakistan, that when you're angry, you show like you stop talking for maybe months or
that's
weeks.
True. Okay.
And
that's horrible.
And what you can look, she's your wife, you have a conflict, or both of you are angry, but you can't just stop caring about her, You can't stop the love towards her.
Yeah.
You got to understand, she's your responsibility. Okay, you have some, disagreement between you, but you need to care about her.
In Pakistan, I feel like within most relationships, so it could be a father-son relationship, it could be a mother-son relationship, it could be a whatever relationship, husband and wife, there's a lack in communication, big time.
And this is what is killing relations.
Yeah.
Although it's not termed as divorce, but it's been killed inside.
Yeah, like over time, it's like, what they call the honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, are you...
And
the honeymoon period
there's
is
another
over.
side of it, If you come back from work and you're sitting together, everyone is in their phone or watching TV and someone is playing games or, whatever it can be.
Yeah.
If you're not communicating enough, you're not getting along enough.
Yeah. And don't blame your kids when they grow up.
Exactly,
and they turn around and they say, nah, mate, I'm going to do what I want to do, basically. And you're going to say, oh, you're the you're the westernized, you have no
Yeah.
respect for elders, you this,
Yeah.
this, but you had
Well,
no
you haven't
time
looked
for
at
them.
yourself first.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's
But
true.
you know, people at our age won't understand this. You know, using excessive technology, or when you are around with your spouse, you're not talking properly. This will cause something very, you know, this will cause a high tide during your older age. You know,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you have
yeah.
no one around. Yeah, everyone is busy in their lives. All obviously of the same age. What you gonna do then?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have
Yeah.
anything to talk about. You know.
You know what? I have this theory, and I've read this in a book. You know, this whole thing with social media and people being less competent at doing stuff, and they're just less able to, you know, think for themselves. I think it's one of those things where like it's a cycle. So it's the next generation who are dependent on these devices and stuff. They're going to be like a weak.
Yeah, like a broiler chicken.
Yeah. Like a,
Bro, it's already happening. You know, the
like a weak
snowflake.
generation.
It's a snowflake generation.
Yeah.
Entitled to everything.
Entitled to everything.
Don't do anything.
Exactly. And then what's going to happen is the times are going to get hard. They're going to be less competent. There's going to be less productivity. And then that's when there's going to be another generation where it's like, okay, we need to be a bit more tough. And it's like a cycle, basically.
Cycle, yeah.
I suppose.
We are stuck in between, you know.
Weak times,
honest,
bad times create strong men create good times create weak men.
Yeah.
And it's a cycle.
I suppose you're right in some ways, but if you look back at history, going back to the world wars and stuff, after the world wars, there was a generation growing up, and the older generation used to say, "We fought wars. What did you do?"
Yeah.
You know, it's just something that the older generation would always think that they're better than the younger one.
But what is the next generation going to say? We had 40,000 followers on Instagram.
Do you know what it is? I have to defend the young generation at the same time as well, relating it to marriage, right? Especially in this country. So my dad, for example, he's back home. My parents got married back home. My mum's British born. Over time, he came to this country, and at that point, I think it was like mid-90s, the economy was very different, right? So back then, you could raise children, just one person, and properties were affordable as well. The house that we lived in, it was a 2-bedroom house. I think it cost my dad like 29 grand.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I've just bought a house, and I could tell you that I paid more than 10 times that amount. If anything, 29 grand didn't even make my deposit. So
I'm not surprised.
So yeah, when we're talking about, you know, like back then people were more like tougher and whatnot, like the challenges that not just our generation, I think the generation below us are going to face, especially when they get married, is things like buying properties, supporting their families. Like, this is going to be very difficult. So yeah, maybe they are soft, but they've got harder challenges.
But the thing is, there's a change in how people do things also. So before, it was all about accumulating assets and properties and this and that. However, in this day and age, it's all about leasing. You go on holiday, you don't buy a room, you rent a room, Airbnb. You want a car, you buy it on lease, you pay £200 a month.
You can't afford it.
You can't afford the car. Same with the house. You get a mortgage because you can't afford it. And I think moving forward, it's going to become even more predominant that people don't own things, but they rent things. I've even worked for a company that leases out mobile phones. You can pay a contract for like £6 a month. You got your phone, your SIM, your everything. People are getting accustomed to rent and lease.
Let's wrap it up. We got 4 minutes.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we could wrap it up. I think we could touch on it another time because that is interesting, especially with the challenges that people face. How do you guys want to wrap it up?
I just want to say to everyone, to all the young ones out there, make sure that your intentions are good. Try and follow your religion, and to the older ones, I'd say, with all due respect, we need to break out of this cultural mold and make marriage easy and not difficult. Culture makes marriage difficult. Our religion makes marriage easy.
Yeah, and marriage is also a very big responsibility. Understand that it comes with many packages, and there's loads of things that you have to consider. And don't think about today, think about tomorrow, and don't just don't just have attraction or the way someone looks as your only criteria. It has to be a lot more than that, because we're talking about your future essentially, and that's something that you have to take serious, especially if you want to get married. You brothers? Well, you don't.
I would say that, whatever happens between a husband and wife, it should stay between husband and wife.
Mm-hmm.
The problem gets bigger when you share it with your family. And, okay, if your family is on to the other side or on to the positive side, they're going to come up with something that's going to connect you together again.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But if your families are on extreme sides, it's going to blow it up.
Waqar, keep it child friendly.
Right. You know what, I'm going to say a quote.
It's not from your grandma, is it?
And I hope it's not from Mahatma Gandhi either.
I hope you understand it as well.
Let me think of a
Is it
quote.
in English or is it in
I
your
just
language?
said it now I've got to come up with
Is
a
it in
quote.
Punjabi?
Okay, this is what I'm going to say,
Go
yeah?
on.
All the young lads who are running around chasing girls or whatever, take on the responsibility of having a wife, take on the responsibility of raising a family. It will only make your life better. It will only put you in the next level up. It will only drive and fuel your ambitions more. Don't be scared of marriage. It's not something that you should shy away from. And respect women. Yeah. I was going to say a quote, but it's a Nas lyric. But
Yeah, I'm sure we come back to it, and I'm sure the audience will have a load of questions, or they might say, actually, you missed this out, and maybe you could talk about that next time. But let's wrap it up. It's been almost 2 hours, and I think it was a decent pod.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Take care, guys. Assalamu alaikum.